Hello, my name is Julie Franck. I'm the Director of Digital Marketing Strategy here at TransPerfect Digital, overseeing my global team of SEO and AI specialists, paid media specialists, market intelligence, and UX. How do I measure success in the era of AI search? Before we talk about what KPIs to measure or how to expand on your current reporting, it is important to understand the difference between traditional search and AI search, right? For traditional search, you implemented a strategy, a user types in a given query or keywords. Google returns a list of blue links, user clicks on it, and your attribution is logged in Google Search Console or Google Analytics. With AI search, that's slightly different because generative AI is probabilistic. So you and I can input the exact same prompt, but the output is completely different based on your conversation history, your location, your language, etc. That means you need over time and pattern. So how do you measure for this, right? Or how does AI search actually work? When a user types in a query, what they do is the so-called query fan out, right? So it checks a lot of pages for semantic cosine similarity and a lot of other things. However, what this means, it basically also pulls all of your brand's entire digital footprint. What is said about you on LinkedIn, on Reddit, on your website, on PR. If all of them across are consistent as a brand, and the AI understands who you are, what you do, who you serve, then the odds of you being cited and mentioned as a trusted source is incredibly high. However, if you're very inconsistent as a brand and your users say, or very, very disappointed on your link, on your website, you're the best, your PR campaign is completely different, then the trustworthiness of your brand and your entity understanding goes down. Entities as a concept for AIs is really important. Entities just means effectively have a clear understanding who you are as a brand, of the concept, of the name, what you do. So the more clear you are as an entity to AI, the higher your probabilities are of being visible. So you have to think about AI optimization more as increasing your odds to be part of the visibility. On top of this, AI results is hyper-personalized, right? So whatever you type is obviously based on the entire memory the AI has about you, your conversation history, your location, your language, etc. So that's on top of an already sort of complex understanding. So how do we measure for all of this? We look at this as a 3-stack sort of vertical tier. Tier 1 is AI technical eligibility. Is my site crawlable for bots? How often do I get crawled by bots? Can they actually retrieve my information? Do they understand my information, right? So that all goes back to the entity understanding, schema markup, page speed, content structure. AI loves to chunk content. One rule of thumb that you could apply is if you have a specific passage, that passage already answer in isolation in user intent or query. If the answer is yes, perfect. You wrote for AI and humans alike. If it doesn't, then you probably want to rewrite. Quick note, it's not really new. It's already, Google already did that in 2021 with the Google passage indexing, right? Where you were able to rank for a specific query, not for the entire page for a given passage. But AI just takes that further. Tier 2 is what we call sort of the channel metrics, is how often your brand is cited or mentioned or used in terms of the synthesized answer across a given query or prompt. And then tier 3 is really just the business outcome. How are AI visibility or is AI assisted conversion tied back to your business outcomes, right? So that could be just measure if your direct or brand traffic is increasing despite getting more or getting less impressions for informational queries. Because that could mean the discovery phase happens on AI, but the conversion phase still happens on your website, right? So people are trying to understand what is the best, I don't know, jeans to wear on a casual event. All of that phase happens in AI. Your brand gets cited, it's trustworthy for the user, and they just type in your brand directly in the browser and then convert. So that's still something that you can measure. In order for you to measure, however, we believe you need some sort of a baseline to start with, right, to benchmark. So what we normally typically start with is the channel metrics, an LLM audit, visibility audit. So we start by generating about 30 or starting point relevant prompts for a given category, a different type of section of your website to understand, are you showing up and how for these prompts? And if not, who is showing up and how, right? The whole point is guiding the outputs of the AMs, being visible to the AI agents and how to control that or how to influence that. So what we do is we set up these prompts, we track them over time, because as I said, you need patterns, right? Because this is generative AI. So it doesn't behave the same way it behaves for me, it behaves for you. So we set up these prompts, we let them run over time to create that statistical pattern, to then go back and say, for this relevant query, who is showing up and how, with what type of content, and why am I missing out? What do I have to do holistically for the entire search ecosystem, not just for AI, for traditional search, for AI, for the entire user journey that you're trying to target. So what we do, we establish a baseline by starting with an LLM visibility audit, right? So you can't just understand your current visibility with one query and one snapshot at a time. You need several queries to run them through several models over time to create that statistical pattern, to see how likely is my probability as a brand to show up for a query or product that I need to own or want to own, right? And who is on position 1, 2, 3? Because position 1, as a mentioned brand in AI and in GPT, Perplexity, Gemini, is effectively the new position 1. So as generative AI behaves differently, like I said, for you and for me, this is why running these prompts over time is crucial. So you have enough representative data to draw conclusions and then go back and analyze. And then what we do is we then really go almost like on a URL level by level, understanding how does my content need to be structured? Is the schema right? What are the log servers tell us? All of these sort of different analyses to then come together and say, this is what you should be doing holistically across the board to optimize for your target audience across their journey.